The challenge was thrown out there to see if I could build a stunning, mobile responsive, and launch ready appeal campaign in less than 30 minutes. Well, obviously, my response was yes, but I'll try to do it in 20 and make a video on it so that you out there in the fundraising world can learn how to level up your campaign building skills in Raisley. So we got together and made a bit of a brief, and here it is. Create an appeal campaign that goes for a single day, that raises funds for a new dog shelter, as who doesn't love an animal rescue story? It needs to incorporate match giving and also build momentum as the day goes on. I reckon that's easy enough. Now, like all good campaigns, you need to get a few ingredients ready before you start cooking, well, in this case, creating. So I have a rough mock-up of the site and the different brand assets I'll need to pull it off, including my logo, colors, fonts, and also some cool images I've downloaded. But now I have my shopping bag full. Let's start the timer and let's get creating. Okay, we've logged into our account, and the first step we want to be taking is to select new campaign. So let's do that, and we're going to select donation appeal. This is a really good appeal template. It's very simple and easy to work with. Now we need a campaign name. I'm going to go with Raisley Learning Challenge Giving Day. That'll be a good URL for it. Currency is fine. And we're going to go an ambitious fundraising goal of $100,000. That's going to be a terrific dog shelter for that. Great, created our campaign. That's ready and loading. We're going to skip brand. And we want to look at our settings. We're going to configure some of the settings in here to make life easier for us down the track. 3 things we want to do: set up the donation form, we want to set up match giving, and we also want to set up our payment account. So let's do those one by one. First of all, donation form. Let's do this. Now, because it's a one-day appeal campaign, I'm not going to worry about recurring giving, so I can delete the monthly and the weekly settings there and simply select Save Changes. That's good. Now the button amounts are ones I also want to address. Here, let's simplify it a little bit down to 3 options. So let's go with 50, 100, and 500. So let's just get rid of the ones that we don't need. 30. Great. So now we have 50, 100, and 500 for our bottom amounts. Let's save changes again. We're doing well. Let's go into fields. Now, at the moment, we're capturing first name, last name, email, message, and a checkbox for anonymous donation. I don't reckon we need the message. Let's get rid of that one. Delete. This is going to simplify our form right down so it's very easy for someone to donate. And we're done with fields. Settings. Now, this is a great little spot where we're going to find some fun little features. The first of all is express donations. Let's activate this, as this is going to make it really simple for anyone who wants to donate via their mobile phone. So we've activated that one. Now we're going to scroll down a little bit more down to the thank you message. I always love this one. It's some good things to put in there. So let's put in a quick little title. Let's say thank you for donating. And we'll put in a little bit of a cheeky message in there. You've created a forever home for a special pup with an emoji. Awesome. And I can't forget to activate confetti because that's a cool little feature. So we're done. Donation form finished. All right. 1 thing down, 2 more to go. Match giving. Let's duck into this. Let's create a match giving period. Now, match giving is great when you've got a wonderful, generous sponsor who's coming on and they want to dedicate an amount to your appeal campaign and to see that match. So let's put in the name of this wonderful, generous company, Generous Pooch. We'll go with that. And they want to match up to $20,000, which means that you can get $40,000 just from this match giving bit, which is awesome. So let's leave it at $20,000. Each match donation should be some amount as donation amount. That's fine. Now let's just put in the date. We're going to go the 1st of March for both of these because it's a 1-day event. And what time should we go with? I reckon we go from 8 in the morning and we'll go till let's go from 9 o'clock at night. I reckon people will still be awake then. You can set some match conditions up, which are really, really cool and sophisticated. Check out our support documentation if you want to be looking at that. We don't have to worry about matching recurring donations, but we do want to put in a match donation details because this will come up on the feed, and I want to have a feed in the site. So I want to put the name of this match donation as Generous Pooch because that's our donor. And we want to put the message that's going to appear in the stream, make a difference with Generous Pooch, and we'll go to save period and confirm. How good's that? Match giving is also done. That's 2 out of 3. Last one, super quick, payments and receipts. Here we just want to link a gateway account. So let me add an existing account that I already have in there. If you don't have an existing account, you can just select create a new, connect a new account, and check out our support documentation to guide you through that really simple process. But my donation form set up, my match giving set up, my payments are set up. We're doing good. We're going to go on to brand in the next step. Okay, now let's dive into setting up the brand design. So let's hit design in the left-hand menu, and we've got a few steps here, but we'll run on through them. First one, let's go into brand, and we need a logo. So I'm going to remove the existing logo, and I've already got my assets available. I'm going to drag in my new one. Kind of like this logo. It looks pretty cool. And I'm going to hit save changes. And I can shrink that. Now, want brand color. Now, you most likely may have your brand colors already available to you. If you don't, you can always, great suggestion is to use a color picker and pick some colors from your campaign image. Typically, this really, really works well, but I've already done that. So I'm going to save my changes for my brand color. I've also got my secondary color available, so I'm going to change that as well. And I've got my 2 colors in there. Now I need a favicon. That's that cute little icon that sits on the very top of your URL. They're really helpful to have in there. So I'm going to dump my little favicon in there. Hit save changes. That's a bit of a lower res one. And now I can put in my campaign image. Now it is not a campaign for some older folk. It's actually a campaign for a dog shelter. So I hunted around and I found a pretty cool image. I reckon that's going to work really, really well for this campaign. What do you reckon? I like it. So I'm going to hit save changes. And on the brand settings, I'm done. I can go now back to design. Now, fonts can be a little bit tricky. You just got to be patient and work your way through them. First one, though, is with the heading font. I'm going to change my heading 1 and all the other heading styles to one particular font that I use a lot, which is Lato. Just a very clean, normal-looking font. I'm going to change the sizing for H1 up to 62 because I want that to be nice and big. And I'm going to make it just a little bit bolder as well, up to 900. Let's just quickly go in and I'll just change the other fonts to Lato. That's just going to help me as well. With the heading 3 font, I normally always use a serif font. So that is Laura, if I'm correct, is the one I want. That's it. And I'm going to change it to a regular and I'll put it to italics. It's going to sort of vary it up a little bit with the font so I don't have the same heading font all the way through. But all the other ones, heading 4, 5, 6, I want to change to Lato. So I'll do that, save my changes. Heading 5, Lato, save changes. And heading 6, Lato. Now, one thing I often do is actually change the font colors for all my headings to dark gray. That's just hashtag 222. I'm not going to worry about it now because we're only doing this in 20 minutes, but you can come back. I often just change it to a dark gray instead. Paragraph is Laura. I'm actually going to change it to Lato too because I like the sans serif font a little bit better. And I'm going to say call it on the fonts. I reckon that'll be enough to get us started. So let's jump out of fonts and go into buttons. Now, buttons can make a big difference. Some of the things we can do in buttons that make a huge difference is just adjust the padding. So on this, we want to go 16 pixels, 44 pixels. Now, I'm going to do this for all of them. I'm going to change it to 16 size as well. No, I'll leave it filled. And rounded corners 50. So as you can see, size has gone to 16, padding 16 by 44, and rounded corners 50 pixels. If I hit save, you'll see the difference straight away. It's nice, a bit of a pill looking button. I kind of prefer it. They just sort of stand out just a little bit more, but I'm going to go ahead and apply those same changes to the other buttons as well. So I change the padding, I'm going to change the size, and I'm going to go to 50 pixels for round corners. Save changes. I'm not going to worry about colors and that kind of stuff at the moment. Let's just minimize these. Call to action. Can be a little bit repetitive, but the nice part is once you've got the hang of it, you just sort of get on through it, which is kind of cool. And it makes a huge difference when you get this step out of the way. Inverse button, field, last one, 16 pixels. Paste in that 50 pixels, save my changes. How good is that? We go back to design. And guess what? Our whole branding's already done. We'll probably make some tweaks down the track, but right now, we're ready to duck into the page builder and get this thing built out. Okay, now into the heavy lifting of this site, and that is designing the landing page for the appeal. So what we want to do is go to pages, and we're going to go into the home page and style that. Now I'm going to run really quickly through this. Hang with me, I'll review it at the end so you can see what I've done. Now, what you've been presented here with is the existing template that Razor has, and these are great if you just want a plug and play experience with Razor, but I'm going to do something a little bit different and start with a blank canvas. So to do that, I'm going to remove all the rows. That's it. We're starting from scratch. Now, I've got a great plan of what I want on this site. It's full of rows and columns and blocks. So I'm going to go ahead and design those. And the first step is I want to put in all of my rows that are going to have the content in them. So let me walk through this. First one, let's put it in a large row here because we're going to have the campaign logo go in there. The next one we want is some text, so I'm going to put in another long row. The next one we want is a countdown timer, so that's going to be a little bit skinnier. Next one we want is we've got the progress bars. We've got two side by side. I'm going to do 2/3, 1/3 row. The next one is we've got the donation form, so I'm going to make that the skinnier row with the column. The next one, we have some text that I'm going to be putting in there. That's a bit of a call to action text. I really like that little section that we're going to do. Next one, we've got some more text, but this time with a bit of an image. So let's go with the 2/3, 1/3. We've used that before. We can repeat that again. Next one we want is I want to put in the sponsor logo. So we're going to do a full row for that one as well. So that can be standalone. Next one, we want a donation stream. That can be a standalone row as well. And the last one is right at the very bottom, we want some text and another call to action donation form. So as you can see here, we have all of our rows and our columns planned out. And it's a good way to do this because you can sort of see the visual flow that goes through your page. You don't really want it going from one column to 4 columns to 1 column to 6 columns. You all kind of want it to be sort of feeling a little bit more consistent in that. Now, before I add in my blocks, I need to do one more step, and that is to remove all the little blank blocks. So I can just go in here and remove all the little blank blocks. These are going to save me lots of time because I don't have to remove them later on. Razor puts these in there because we need them to actually create the block, to create the row and the columns initially, but they're really, really simple to just to remove, and I am done. Next, what I want to do is I want to put in all my blocks into these rows. So I'm going to quickly do that, and the site's going to come a little bit more together. So let's go to blocks. The first one we're going to work with is we want to work with the campaign logo. That's going to go in the very top block. The next one is I want some text. So we're going to put a heading in here. I'm going to duplicate this heading out because that's going to be a bit of a subheading, and I want some paragraph text under that as well. And lastly, I want is a call to action button. And that's going to sort of be the first major row that we're going to have in there. Next one is I want to put a countdown timer because that's a great thing for this one-day campaign. And under that, I want to put the progress bar. I want people to be able to see what the progress is. Now, Razor has 2 progress bars. You've got a general progress bar, but you also have a match progress bar as well. And this is helpful because we can actually display specifically what's sort of coming in on the match. Now, underneath there, I want the big call to action, which is the donation form. So let's stick in the donation form in this row. And then under that, as I said before, I want some big call to action text. So I'm going to put a nice big blurb in there. Now I want a little bit more text, but this time a little bit differently. So I'm going to put some text in here, a paragraph again. Oh, social. No, don't want social. I want the paragraph text. And this time I want an image just next to it. That's kind of why I put the two columns in there, so they can sort of run side by side on the desktop view or underneath one another on the mobile. Now, underneath that sort of text, I want to put in a bit of a word to the sponsors. So I'm going to stick a heading there. I'm going to duplicate that so I can have a subheading as well. And I also want a logo gallery. So if I type in logo and go to logos, that can go right in there. So it's like text, logos. Next, I want a donation stream. So I'm going to type in stream. That's going to just display all the donations coming up. And last row, super simple, is we want some text. This is going to be the final sort of call to action right at the bottom of the page. And we're going to put a donation form in the column right next to it. All right, so what you've seen now is I've filled out all the rows and the columns with all the blocks I'm going to be using. The next phase is to go through row by row and design and just configure all the settings around that I want. Stay with me. Now, a really important step is to make sure you save your changes. Just click the button up the top there whenever you've done anything major on the page and make sure it is saved and that you do not lose anything. Now, we're going to do something a little bit different now, but go with me. I want you to change your view from desktop over to mobile. Okay, stop the clock. Why on earth am I building using the mobile view? Well, it has to do with responsive design. A web page is like a bookcase with a number of shelves and stuff on those shelves. When I design it in the desktop view, it's like having a big wide bookshelf where a number of items can be side by side. But on the mobile, it's like changing the width of the bookcase to be much skinnier, where only one or two things will fit. Otherwise, you've got to stack them on top of one another. This is why it's called responsive design, as when the screen size changes, so does the layout. So if I start with mobile, I'm starting with simple, pared back, easy to scroll. And then I move to the desktop, I find that I have a little bit more space if I want to make use of that. But if I start with the desktop, I'm starting with complex. So when I go to the mobile site, then I'm needing to simplify. That, my friends, is slower and honestly trickier, as you are subtracting, rearranging content rather than having more space to fill. And then there's the obvious reason that over 50% of the viewers to your site will view on mobile first. And that experience needs to be right. Okay, let's continue. Now we're going to go through every single row and format the different block to make sure it's all getting styled correctly. So let's start with the top one and we'll make our way down to the bottom. The first one is our campaign logo. So let's go into its settings and we're going to change the alignment over to left. And we're going to change the width, I reckon, to something like 80 pixels. I reckon that looks pretty good on the mobile site. Now, the next one we want is with some heading text here. Now, I want this as a subheading. Oh, we're going to go cancel. I forgot to save my changes. Make sure you use that tick. If I go into the subheading, I'm going to change it into a subheading hex. That's number 5. And I can put in my heading text here. Now, I've already pre-prepared a little bit of copy. So I'm going to sort of stick that in there now. Copy is at times something quite hard to develop, so do take your time with it. I've already pre-prepared some stuff, so I cheated a little bit, but it just allows me to get ahead and to design something that's looking pretty good in the end. Great, so I've got some copy for my subheading, heading, and my paragraph text, but what about the buttons? Now I'm needing some space in there. They need some room to breathe. So let me put in a spacer just in between these. And I want to change that spacer to, I reckon, about 40 pixels. I reckon 40 is about right. Yep, that's wonderful. Gives it a little bit more room to breathe and away we go. Now, in regards to our buttons, we've got 2 buttons. We only need 1. So I'm going to go into the second button, simply remove the text, and that button is gone. But why don't we go into our first button and change the wording? I reckon that's fantastic. We're going to leave it left aligned, which I think works. And we'll save that, and that row is also done. Cool, let's get to the next one. We've got a countdown timer. Only thing I want to do here is not include days. We don't need days in this. It's a 1-day campaign. I'm going to turn days off, and that's already done. Now, I've got my progress bars, I've got my overall, and I've got my match, but people don't know that. So I need to put some text in here to sort of help explain that. I'm going to pinch my little text up the top here. So I'm going to go copy, and I'm going to scroll down and put that in there. And I'm going to do that twice. So let's put that in there. And I've got a little bit of copy I want to add to that. So the first one is, why don't we put reach the goal, and I'll center align that. And the next one will go meet the match. I reckon that kind of works pretty well. Center align that there. Wonderful, much clearer. All right, we've got a progress bar, and we've got a match progress bar as well. That's looking much better than it was before. I reckon we're on to something. Next one is the donation form. I'm going to leave that as is at the moment. I reckon that's just fine the way it is. We'll do some styling a little bit later on. Now, I've got some center heading text I'm going to use as a call to action. So let me just put that in here. And I just want to do one thing, and that is to center align all of that. So that's all now center aligned. That's working well. Wonderful. Now for some extra copy. Now, the reason we put in extra copy here is it just explains a little bit more about the cause and what's going on, right? That's really, really important. We don't want to go too over the top, but we do want to make things clear. Now, I do want a subheading, so I'm going to actually duplicate that one out. Let's put a subheading in this one. So opportunity, and we'll change it to 5. Wonderful. And I'll put in some heading text. Terrific. And now we want to be putting in, now I've just got some lorem ipsum text for this. I'll come back to this later on, but that's fine. I'll put some lorem ipsum. And then I want an image in here because we want some color and some things that look a little bit different. So I want to put in a great picture of a super cute dog, and that'll load in. Make sure one thing you do is compress your images before you put them in. You check out our support guides to learn how to do that as well. Now, as before, we need a little bit of breathing room. So why don't we just add a spacer in there again? And because I used the last one at 40 pixels, I'm going to do exactly the same this time. Makes it very consistent, and that is all working really, really well. Excellent. Okay, got some text in there. Now we want the logo section in here. So I'm going to change this over to heading 5, little subheading. And I'll put this as, say, meet our sponsors. And we can now put in some logos. Oh, we got to cancel, save that. Nice one, James. All right, let's go into here. Now with our logos, I can add in new logos simply by dragging and dropping. It's really that simple. So I can go logo, add item. I can change the size of that item as well. So I'm going to change maybe the maximum width. Let's just drop this right down to like 222. That's fine. That'll do for the moment. And then I can put in as many of these as I want. I simply just click add item. Let's put in, I download these from a kind of site that just works well too as a sort of a dummy education space for this as well. So their logos are in, and you can add as many of those as you want. Okay, so we've got meet the sponsors. I'm going to just center align this because that looks a lot clearer. Wonderful. Okay, now on to donation stream. I don't want this as a vertical. I want this as a horizontal. Much better. And the last one is, we've got some heading text just down for the very bottom. This is the last call to action. Let's put this text in. Great. Put some lorem ipsum text in. And that's working really well. Love it. Okay, tick. Great. Text, donation form. We are going to need a little bit of space in here, so we will get back to that. So just give us a little bit and we'll have a look at how we can actually do that as well. But what we've done now is our site is looking way better. We've got some really cool stuff in there. Next, what we want to do is we want to do some styling of our rows. That's going to make a huge impact. Okay, we're almost at the finish line and there are a few more little style changes I want to make. But to do that, I'm going to need some CSS. All right, let's just stop the clock real quick and chat CSS. I know that you are most likely not a coder, though kudos to you if you do know some tricks. But don't be scared off, as I'm here to help. Razor gives you full access to the backend CSS code, so you can design whatever you want. This makes it one of the most flexible platforms that's out there. But I get you don't have time to run through a course in CSS coding, so everything I put in is available in the description below and you can just paste it in. I'll let you know what it does to aid your curiosity, but I'm just going to ask you to copy and paste and then see the magic. If you do want to learn more, check out our design and UX channel for some CSS tips and tricks. All right, let's keep going. Now, there are 4 changes I want to be making. The first one is the campaign logo. I want it basically to sit underneath without this white space. Let's have a look at the desktop view to get a bit of a fuller picture. I don't want this white space there. I want the logo to drop underneath. To do that, it's relatively simple. We can just paste into our style sheet down the very bottom, scroll down, the first line of code that I've put in the description below. Here, I'll need to copy the class name, which is pos absolute. Copy and save my changes. Now I need to just go over to the row settings, advanced, attributes, and paste my custom class. There we go. That's looking really good. Let's have a quick look on the mobile to see whether it's carried across, and that's looking terrific. If you need to change the margin settings, you can do so in the rows column settings as well. Now, the next change I want to be making, let's just look at the desktop view again, is the color of the countdown timer. I kind of want it to be white. So to do that, I just need to copy over another little line of code that you can find in your description and paste that in and hit save my changes. And that's going to change it to white. The reason it defaults on the other color is it picks up one of your palette colors to use. I'm just overriding it there. Now, the next change I want to be making is a little bit more significant. What I want to be doing is I want to change how the donation form looks. So let's look at how it currently looks on the site. And it'll look a little bit like this. I can click my button, pay card. It's a little bit boxy, and I just want to simplify it a little bit down. So let's just have a look and let's paste in some new code. In the description below, you'll find all the code for the donation form. As I said before, this is completely subjective. You don't have to do this, but I like simplifying things down a little bit more. Let's go down the very bottom. Let's create a new line. We'll paste that code in and hit save our changes. Now, let's look at the updated version. Scroll down. Looking a little bit neater. Pay with card. Love it. Looks really good. Nice and simple, easy to follow. Now, the last one I want to be doing is adding in a rotation into the image. Now, this is also relatively simple. I'm just going to paste in my code down below of rotate. Now, I'm going to copy the class rotate 5, save changes, scroll down to the image, open the image up, advanced, attributes, paste in my custom class. And the image is rotated a little bit. You can change the degree to whatever you like, but it's pretty simple. Now, guys, I think we're pretty much done. Why don't we have a look at the site as a whole and see how it's finished up? The site's looking really good. Nice and clean on desktop with plenty of space. Probably a few little things I'd edit, such as maybe the footer color down there and maybe change the logo over to white. Let's have a quick look at what it looks like in the mobile view. Again, nice and neat, simple, clean, really easy to take your eyes through, and notice the spacing on it. It really adds a lot to it. As I said, there's probably a few more things that we could adjust, but that's not a bad effort for the time that we had. Now that we've got our landing page done and really a lot of the heavy lifting, the very last thing to do is just make sure your messages are up to date. So go over to messages from the dashboard. And what we can do, we can actually just disable a lot of these that we don't need, because the only one we do need is donation receipt. So if I just turn a lot of these off, just going to clear the space up a little bit for me as well. There we go. And last one. Awesome. Now the donation receipt one we can access simply by opening it up. And this email goes out to everyone who donates. It's all of our donors. We want to just make sure it's right for them. So you can go down to set your sender name, your sender email, and also your subject as well. The main one is to look at your content. Make sure you change the image at the top of your email and also your email copy too. Make sure this is personalized and you can use merge tags to help. This is going to make a real difference in helping those who have contributed to the campaign really feel a part of it and want to give maybe more down the track. And there we have it, with the only thing left is to set the site to live. If you enjoyed the walkthrough, hit subscribe to let us know, and be sure to leave any questions or tell us what you enjoyed in the comments below, and I'll be sure to answer. Keep creating and stay ambitious.